G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome to my beginner's guide for the Blade Dancer class in Blade and Soul. This video is part of a paid promotion. There's more information in the description below the video. Blade Dancer, sometimes called the Lin Blade Master based on the Korean version, is a more offensively focused class in Blade and Soul. Blade Dancer is an excellent choice for newer players and players with high ping because not too many of its combos and abilities rely on precise fraction of a second timings. Learning to play the class effectively is more about knowing when best to use certain abilities, how to play around the strengths of other classes, and how to position to stay on top of your enemies. In this video I'm going to go over the basics of the class that you'll need to know to accelerate both your PvP and PvE learning. I'll be sharing some strong skill combos you can use, and I'll share a solid beginner's build for PvP. This guide primarily takes a PvP view of the class, but much of what you'll learn will translate over to PvE as well. So let's talk about one of the most important things for especially early level Blade Dancer play, and that is focus management. The first thing to know about the Blade Dancer is that they can easily become starved of focus, rendering them unable to put out any real damage. Focus for you newer players to the game is Blade and Soul's mana system. You have 10 points that can be spent and recovered by various different combat actions. Obviously, weaving in basic attacks to regain focus is important and should be done wherever possible. Just make sure your opponent isn't countering or blocking at the time. Extremely underrated is the stomp ability in Blade and Soul. On a downed opponent, you can press the F key to quickly stomp them to recover 2 focus, 4 if you put a skill point in it. This is essential to playing Blade Dancer at the lower levels until you unlock other skills for focus management. You have 2 ways of knocking enemies down too, body kick on the 1 key and ankle biter on the 3 key, so you'll be able to keep enemies on their backsides for a lot of the fight, allowing you plenty of opportunities to stomp them. Knocking an enemy down, stomping them, and then following up with a quick basic attack gives you 3 focus quickly. Body kick only costs 1 focus, so you get some free damage and 2 recovered focus. By level 30 or so, you should spec 3 points into Soaring Falcon. This skill is on the 1 key when you're at range, and it generates 2 focus instantly, followed by 8 focus over 8 seconds if spec'd correctly. Once you get this, your focus management becomes a lot easier. So now let's talk about the bread and butter of the class, Vortex use. Vortex on the tab skill is the Blade Dancer's real core skill. Learn how to use it, when to use it, and what it does. Vortex inflicts damage over multiple hits in a large AoE around you as your character spins around. Most importantly, with the right skill points allocated, Vortex will provide 0.5 seconds of immunity to all damage and crowd control right after using it. This parry can also daze enemies and provide focus back to you when it happens. Vortex should primarily be used defensively. It has a short cooldown so it can be spammed when needed, but it does consume focus, so try not to waste it when not actually in danger. Used correctly, it'll keep you alive and punish enemies for being overly aggressive. Starting out, try and recognize when the enemy is likely to attack and then use your Vortex. Also, use it when you're being repeatedly attacked by a combo or basic attack spam. This will interrupt your enemy and provide you opportunities to combo them back. As you get better, try and use it in reaction to projectile attacks flying your way, or when you see an animation on your enemy telling you that they are about to attack. This sort of reactive use of Vortex is a more advanced technique, but something that you definitely want to start work on as soon as possible. Your very first 2 skill points earned on your character should be specced into Vortex Tier 2 Stage 2 to give you the parrying effect. Next up is your other primary defensive skill, Guardian Tempest. When activated, it will spawn swords that swirl around you and parry incoming attacks. When you put some skill points into it, you can get a random amount of swords between 1 and 5. This means that it can block between 1 and 5 attacks every time you use it. It can also be spec'd to provide a 10% heal whenever you use it as well. Use this skill to block powerful combos or control attempts from your opponent. It lasts 5 seconds or so you can use it fairly in advance, but try and wait till the last moment, or your opponent might just wait until it wears off so it doesn't block anything. You can also use Guardian Tempest offensively as well. Activating it before you dive in and attempt to set up a combo can allow you to mitigate your opponent's stun attempts that might otherwise stop you in your tracks. Movement skills are also a really core component of the Blade Dancer class. Weaving in and out of combat, staying on top of your opponent, getting behind their blocks, and being a hard target to hit in general are all core parts of the Blade Dancer playstyle. So let's go through the movement skills you need to know to make it happen. First up is Rush and Raid. By default, the 2 key is Rush, a simple gap closer that generates you some focus. Use this skill whenever you can to keep your focus up and stay on top of your enemy, though try not to rush directly into their attacks. With 2 skill points however, Rush can become Raid, a skill with a much longer cooldown that stuns the enemy. This is highly recommended as it's a great way to set up combos and pin your opponent down, especially at the lower levels. It can also be used to interrupt some attacks. At higher levels, you'll unlock the skill 5-point strike on the X key. This skill dashes to your opponent and hits them up to 5 times. It doesn't deal much actual damage, but it can be spec'd to both stun your opponent and send them flying airborne, which makes it a powerful combo initiator. You can interrupt the rapid series of 5 attacks by using another skill or cancelling by trying to move away from them. Next up, double tapping the S key, or the move back key, allows you to retreat, a backflip that breaks from snares like being frozen in place. It also generates some focus, makes you immune to damage briefly, and allows you to reposition your character. You can use it to get away from your enemy or to get close to them if you quickly turn and face away from them before doing your backflip. Finally, we have Strafe and Blindside on the Q and E keys. These can be used when close to your enemy to step around and behind them quickly. Q will step you around the left hand side and E will step you around the right hand side. They have separate cooldowns, so make sure to use each and either and alternate between them when you need to. These skills are great for dodging powerful attacks and just for confusing your opponent in general. If you're constantly swapping sides that you're attacking your opponent from, then it makes you a much harder target to hit. They also have the added side effect of boosting your Sunder skill on your right mouse button, so you can follow up with a few hits of that for a bit of added damage. Now, before we move on to some of the more advanced combos, I want to talk about another useful skill you will unlock called Dual Strike. Dual Strike is a skill that can serve 2 very distinct and different purposes depending on how you spec your points. By default, this skill slashes twice, healing you for any damage dealt. Speccing into the left side of the tree allows you to press the V button multiple times to get up to 5 hits, all of which will heal you. You'll also resist damage and status effects while you're attacking with it. This is great in PvE and against enemies in PvP where you can land the hits reliably to heal. Speccing into the middle tree on the other hand converts it into a single slash that no longer heals you but instead draws your opponent into you and dazes them for 2 seconds. This allows you to set up combo attacks. It's great versus enemies like assassins where it's next to impossible to land all of the healing hits of the other tree. Both trees are very strong, play around with either version of Dual Strike and see what you like the most, and see which works better against certain classes. This may be a skill that you respec in between rounds against different classes where it will be more effective. So now let's move on to some of the more advanced skills and combos. This is where you'll start to dish out some serious punishment. So first up we have the basic Phantom Grip combo. There's a lot of different things you can do with Phantom Grip, but this is one that I recommend for starting out with. Phantom Grip is a channeled skill that picks up your opponent Force Choke style from Star Wars. When you are channeling this skill, a whole host of other skills become available to you to use on your opponent. These skills range from status effects to damage and focus recovery for you. The following combo is one of the best, I think, as it's both high damage and recovers a ton of focus. In order to pull this off, you need to put 1 skill point into Phantom Grip itself to increase its duration to 6 seconds. So this is what the combo looks like. Pressing the 4 key will activate Phantom Grip and grab your opponent. If they don't immediately break out, you can use the 4 key again to absorb chi, up to 2 times. Then you can follow up with Soul Stab on the 2 key, and then right mouse button for Blade Swarm. Finally, finish up the combo with the Drain skill on the 3 key. To make this combo work, you'll need to make sure when you go to Blade Swarm that you have at least 6 focus. Absorb Chi gives you 1 focus back every time you use it, so you can factor that in. If you don't have at least 6 focus, then you can instead use left mouse button for Blade Flight, which does less damage but costs no focus. If you have a pretty low ping, then you may actually be able to work in an extra ability into this because of the timings. One good option is Lightning Rod on the F key after a Soul Stab for additional damage. Alternatively, you could just work in another Absorb Chi to try and build up your focus some more. The Drain skill finisher for this combo doesn't deal a ton of damage, but it does steal a lot of focus off your enemy and restore it to you. So next up I want to explain the Blade Dancer's draw stance, because this is where you'll be doing the majority of your burst damage as a Blade Dancer. The Lightning Draw skill on the C key hurls a slashing bolt of lightning forwards at your enemy, and it switches you from basic stance to draw stance. In draw stance you'll have a few of your skills change. Left mouse button changes from your basic attack combo to the very high damage flicker skill. Right mouse button changes from Sunder to Lightning Strike, which teleports you behind your opponent, attacking them in the process. And you can also gain the ability to generate electric focus on critical hits when in this stance. When you have electric focus, you can use a new ability on the F key called Flash Step, which causes you to dash forward, dealing damage. With skill points, you can change Flash Step into another spammable damage dealing skill called Lightning Flash. At lower levels, you are basically going to lightning draw, teleport behind your enemy, and use flicker to deal as much damage as possible. Later on, you'll get enough skill points to really amp up the damage with the following combo, however. And this combo is the lightning draw burst combo. So it's possible with the use of animation cancelling to outright kill an opponent with one combo of this, but more likely if you pull it off, you'll be dealing over 50% of your opponent's health in just a couple seconds. So the optimal way to work this combo is to first have a knocked down enemy target. You can knock them down with body kick on the 1 key or ankle biter on the 3 key, or you can just do it at the end of a phantom grip or aerial juggle. So then the combo itself goes like this. Lightning draw on the C key to switch yourself into draw stance and deal some damage. Then you're going to use right mouse button for lightning strike, which will potentially stun your opponent. Then you're going to be using left mouse button for flicker and F for lightning flash, alternating quickly between the two to animation cancel. It takes some practice to get the timing for this right, and it's a bit difficult to do reliably if you have a high ping. But if you have a low ping and with some practice, you'll be able to spam these two abilities very quickly. So this combo requires 2 points in Lightning Strike, the right mouse button skill, 2 points in Flash Step to turn it into Lightning Flash, and 3 points in left mouse button's Flicker. These points cause Lightning Strike to stun, and they convert the movement Lightning Step into the spammable damage dealer Lightning Flash, as well as causing Flicker itself to be guaranteed critical hits against a stunned enemy and deal more damage in general. If you have 3 additional skill points, then they can be spent on Lightning Draw's Stage 1 tree to make it deal a huge amount of damage to a downed enemy, with a guaranteed crit, which of course also gives you a charge of Lightning Focus right off the bat. So next up, Blade Dancers are very well known for their fancy airborne combos, so let's learn how to do those. For those of you guys new to fighting style games, airborne is basically when you send an opponent up in the air, and juggling is when you keep hitting them to keep them up there. So first up, to make an enemy airborne in the first place, you have a few different options. The X skill, 5-point strike, if you land 2 hits with it when you've spec'd the points, will send them airborne. It will first stun them and then actually send them airborne. Alternatively, you can press the F key to use the Take Flight skill on a stunned or dazed enemy. You can stun or daze enemies to be able to use Take Flight with the Raid skill on the 2 key, with your actual tab Vortex skill when you get a successful parry, or with V's Dual Strike when you've spec'd the points into making it daze. This following juggle combo is a nice, reliable, easy one for beginners to use that deals a good amount of damage. First up, use Soaring Falcon on the 1 key. This will deal a little bit of damage and will start regenerating your focus while you're doing this combo. Then you can send them back up in the air as they start to fall down with Rising Eagle on the left mouse button. Then you have the option of using either left mouse button's Ascend to bring them back down to the ground, or right mouse button's Crash. Now you can follow up either with a Phantom Grip combo or a Lightning Draw combo. I like to use Ascend on the left mouse button if I'm going to follow up with Phantom Grip, or use Crash if I'm going to follow up with a Lightning Draw combo to get that guaranteed crit on the Lightning Draw itself. Make sure to keep track of when your opponent last used their escape abilities from a knockdown. You have lots of knockdowns so you can force them to use it, and then you'll be able to use this combo and follow it up with another combo more successfully. So now I'm going to give you guys a priority list for spending your skill points. I encourage you to experiment a lot with your build in this game, but this list is the things that I highly recommend for beginners or that I think are essential for the class for everyone. First up, you absolutely must spec for the parry on Vortex. Without it, you are nearly defenseless. Also essential is speccing Reversal, your tab escape skill, to help you escape other control effects like grapples. Without speccing this, some classes will be able to outright kill you with their strongest combos. As an added pro tip, practice saving your tab escape as much as possible. It's very powerful and it is on a long cooldown, so you need to have it for whenever those powerful combos start to happen. The next skill I'd consider it essential to invest into is the Guardian Tempest skill for additional parries. The heal for 1 additional point is not a bad idea either, as it'll help out a lot in drawn out fights. The final essential investment I recommend is 3 points in Soaring Falcon for the focus recovery. With it, you'll have so much more focus to be able to dish out a ton more damage to your enemy. So we already covered the points essential to Lightning Draw combo, and that you'll need 1 point in Phantom Grip for its increased duration, and I recommend getting these after you get these previous essential skills sorted so you can start to put out some damage. Finally, for beginners, I recommend turning Rush into Raid to give you an additional stun to set up combos and interrupt enemies. How you spend the rest of your points is up to you. I like investing into more damage for my Lightning Draw combo, and into the 5-point strike skill to set up air combos with its daze and automatic knockup. So guys, that should be enough to get you going on the Blade Dancer with a running start. I know there's quite a lot to take in with understanding classes in this game, so if you have any questions about anything in this video, or of the class in general, feel free to ask in the comments below. That's it for now, I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.